Good holy everyone, my name is Elamay Lutero and today I am going to discuss about the definition and examples of curriculum standards and competencies. So first, let us know the definition of curriculum standards. So when we say curriculum standards, these serve as guidelines for educators and students involved in personalized learning to design curriculum and assessments that represent what students need to know and be able to do, as well as develop instructional practices that support the desired learning and application in authentic contexts. So it also describes of what the students should know and be able to do and demonstrate at the end of each level or of the process. So these standards can be used as reference point for planning, teaching and learning programs, and for assessing the students' progress. So in K-12 curriculum, standards are classified into two. We have here the content standards and the performance standards. So in content standards, it described what students should know or be able to do within the content of a specific discipline or at the intersection of two or more disciplines. So it also articulates core knowledge and skills that students should master. It guides teacher in identifying instructions on the knowledge and skills that the students should learn. It also answers the question, what should the students know pertaining to knowledge and do, which pertains to the skills. So in content standards also share the most important and enduring ideas, issues, principles, skills, and habits of mind. So it also express the desired result. So we have here the examples of the content standard would include the students will classify objects along the two dimensions. Next is we have described effects of physical activity of the body, and then present employment related information in the target language. So yun yung nasa content standard. Dumako naman tayo sa performance standard. So when we say performance standards, it identifies skills needed to use the knowledge and skills in problem solving, reasoning, communicating, and making connections with the other information. They provide all the constituents with the evidences that students have met the content standards, helping teacher define what level of work is satisfactory. So, in its definition, performance standards describe the abilities and skills that the learners are expected to demonstrate in relation to the content standards and integration of the 21st century skills. And also, in this performance standard, it answers the question, how well must the students do their work? It also presents the product of performance as evidence of learning or attainment of the content standard. It also adds the value to what students learn. A performance standard also demonstrates conceptual understanding of content and skill acquisition. It represents real life and authentic task. It also encompasses the standard. So, itong performance standard, ang mga mag-aaral ay inasahan na gumawa ng produkto o performance bilang ebidensya na nailalapat nila sa buhay ang kanilang natutunan o naunawaan. So, another thing is, K-12 curriculum also includes the curriculum or the learning competencies. So when we say curriculum competencies, these refer to the skills, knowledge, understanding, and attitude that the learner need to demonstrate in every lesson and or in learning activity. Learning competencies also are the concept that emphasizes the development of the ability to do, which pertains to competence, task by students in the form of mastery of a set of knowledge, abilities, attitudes, and interests of the students in order to be able to do something in the form of skill with full responsibility. So in learning competencies also will be able the students to demonstrate the ability to apply and transfer their learning to new situation. So learning is personalized to meet the needs of each and every individual student. Achievement is no longer variable, instead it is an expectation. Learning experiences the time it takes to master skills and content, and the types of support may vary from student to student. And specific learning targets are also established, and the students have voice and choice as to how well they get there. The focus is really on the equity, making sure each and every student gets what he or she needs in order to achieve their goals. So we have here the examples of the indicators for the learning competencies. We have here the critical thinking skills, we have the collaboration skills, the creativity and innovation, the cultural and global citizenship, the communication skills, the problem solving, the managing information, the personal growth and well-being, and so on and so forth. So, ito yung mga tinatawag na 21st century skills na dapat taglayin ng learners kaugnay dito sa learning competencies in the content standards na design at in-implement ng isang teacher. And then, we have here, as you can see, we have here the examples of the curriculum standard and competencies based on the K-12 curriculum guide, particularly in the subject of oral communication of the grade 12 senior high school level. Okay, basically here are the contents of the subject. We have the functions of communications. We have the regulatory control, social interaction, motivation, information, emotional expression. So, ito yung content na o mga nilalaman ng subject na ito na dapat malaman ng mga mag-aaral. And we have here under the content standards, we have values, the functions, the purposes of oral communication. And in performance standard, we have writes at a 250-word essay of his or her objective observation and evaluation of the various speaker watch and listen to. So, merong paggawang nagaganap dito sa performance standard. And also, we have here the examples of learning competencies. We have the discuss the functions of communication, identifies the speaker's purpose, watches and listens for sample oral communication activities. Number 4 is to ascertains the verbal and nonverbal cues that each speaker uses to achieve his or her purpose. And next, we have comprehends various kinds of oral text. We also have identify strategies used by each speaker to convey his or her ideas effectively. And we have number 7 evaluates the effectiveness of an oral communication activity. Other one, we have in the content the communicative competence strategies in various speech situation. Under it, we have the types of speech content, which are categorized into 2, which are the interpersonal and the intrapersonal. And we have the public and the types of speech styles. In the content standard of this topic or lesson, it recognized that communicative competence requires understanding of speech context, speech style, speech act, and thus communicative strategy. So, ito yung mga dapat nilang malaman pertaining with this lesson here. And when it comes to the performance standards, they have to demonstrate effective use of communicative strategies in a variety of speech situations. The learning competencies identifies the various types of speech contexts. Number 2, exhibits appropriate verbal and nonverbal behavior in a given speech context. And number 3, distinguish types of speech and styles. So, ito yung example ng curriculum guide ng K-12, particularly, kaya nga nung sinabi ko kanina, ng senior high school. So, narito yung mga content standard na dapat malaman, performance standard, and the learning competencies ng students which designed to meet their goals doon para sa mga estudyante and para meet din yung goals ng mga teacher pertaining to the success of their students and the success of their instruction. And let us go to the difference between the standards and competencies. So standards describe what students should know and be able to do in relation to established criteria. They are distinct statements and provide the building blocks of competencies. Competencies describe how students apply and transfer their learning to new contexts and situations. They compass multiple standards, are assessed multiple times, and allow for the transfer of knowledge and skills across the content areas. These curriculum standards and competencies are one of the essential task of the teachers in implementing the K-12 basic education curriculum. And these are very useful for the speakers the teachers, especially when they design their instructional plans and assessment tools. That concludes my report. I hope you have learned something, and thank you and good holy.